to a show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats podcast. See, that time I had to pause because I couldn't remember which one I was doing this week on the podcast. So I know lately I've been having a lot of new guests on, which thank you to everyone for, making the time and sharing your stories with us. We do appreciate it. I'm going to be honest. It's been a little exhausting. It's like doing speed dating, and I'm just getting to know a whole bunch of new people, and I love y'all all, and it's cool. Y'all are great folks, but I had to go back and, just talk to a previous guest, a friend. And, we're going to kind of pick up where we left off, actually. So I want to welcome back to the podcast all the way from New York because, so far from here. And Jiu-Jitsu badass, Miss. Do you want me to call you Sav, or you want me to go with full first name, or what you want?
Whatever you want. Most people call me Sav in the jiu-jitsu world, but I'm Savannah professionally, and then I guess Sav in jiu-jitsu world. So
we're not professionals here.
We're not professionals.
So we're gonna go with Savvy Savannah, Savvy Sav. There we go, Savvy Sav.
Yeah.
Welcome back. How you feeling?
Thank you. I am glad to be back on. We were just talking about this, but last time I was on, it was right before I had a super fight in Maryland against Jonna Wood. And so we're going to rewind back to there and pick up on life. And I'll give a debrief of everything that's been going on. I did lose that match in Maryland. I got down there. We actually wrestled quite a bit. It was a really good wrestling experience for me because Jonna has really great wrestling. She's also an MMA fighter. She's a black belt now. But she and I had some good exchanges. I think overall it was a great experience. But I had actually fought her the year before in Rochester. There was an AGF tournament, and we were the only two girls in the bracket. So she agreed to have a match with me. And I got out of two of her arm bars. She put me in arm bars, and I have a really nasty hitchhiker. So I just got out. And then she's like, hey, do you want to have this super fight? And I was like, yeah, you were cool the first time. Let's run it back. So I get down there, and a couple minutes into the match, after our wrestling and everything, she got me in an arm bar, but she was smart and she remembered that I was really good at getting out the first time. So she just ripped the arm bar, which I don't blame her because she was playing smart on her end, But I tore my UCL, and I was in Maryland in the ER at 1 a.m. and had to drive back to New York the next day. And I couldn't drive with my arm. So my little sister was with me, and I'm glad she was there. But anyway, it was this whole thing. Boom, I'm out for 3 months. It's hey, that's not good. And I, at that point, was lined up to have a very full summer of competing into the fall and do, worlds and all the IBJJF stuff and everything, and then do ADCC trials. And I couldn't, I had to pull out of everything. And surprisingly, I thought that the arm was going to be the biggest problem. But the arm actually healed up pretty quick. I was in PT, and I healed faster than most people. I still try to stay active. I was still, you saw my memes and stuff, probably, people, I think Jiu-Jitsu literally memed me because I was training and posting videos and stuff in my sling, and I was you know what, can't take time off. And it was important for me to stay active because it also mentally gets to me if I'm not able to stay active and participate. So I stayed active all 3 months, and then I slowly just eased back into training. I went from the sling to the brace to the the tighter sleeve, and then eventually nothing. So I just slowly sort of weaned myself back into training. But even after the first couple of days that I tore it, I would just train with ice in it. I just keep icing it and keep going. And really, I think that was beneficial for me. I think it actually sped the healing process up. And I'm lucky enough so far to only have that like one major physical injury. But at the same time, I was bribed into going back to grad school. So I ended up going back into a Master of Landscape Architecture to do more. Why? I don't know. Um, and so I just graduated Saturday. I'm done. That was like a year program. Just quick bang, got a master's real quick. So now I'm actually done with school. But that also interfered with things as well because I had obviously plans to compete, and maybe it happened how it was supposed to because my arm was done and then I had to go back to school. So maybe it wasn't really the best time for me to like compete and everything. So that brings us up to October. So this happened in July. I had August, September, and by October, it was like 3 months that my arm was starting to feel a little normal again. I was starting to get back to faster paced training. And then all of a sudden, I was so tired. Like I couldn't stay awake for more than 4 hours, and I was like groggy. I couldn't think. It was the weirdest thing ever. And that was all of October and halfway through November. And I started to like feel the burnout in September, like towards the end of September. But it was really in October when I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I literally can't stay awake. Like I'm sleeping all day. And I don't sleep. Like I've never done that in my life. So it started this whole investigation into like what's going on with my body and like what's wrong. And so we were checking all my hormone levels and all my thyroid and my adrenals and everything. And like I was diagnosed with PCOS a while ago, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it like messes a bunch of stuff up. But like I said, I've had that since I was younger, and it hasn't been like super prominent, so I didn't really think anything of it, nor do I think that that's what the cause was. And from that point, my health has just tanked. Like it has gotten so much worse that I actually haven't competed since that super fight in Maryland. And I've just kind of been training like as I can and as it feels comfortable. I have like some recurring autoinflammatory thing. They can't figure out what it is. I also have atypical migraine. So I get flare-ups of like the PCOS symptoms, the migraines. I get ocular migraines. And I also have the autoimmune thing that's happening. And they ruled out like, I did a bunch of testing and everything. They ruled out like stuff in my brain, stuff in my neck. They ruled out lupus, leukemia, like all the major stuff, which is good, but I still don't have any answers. So I still get like this recurring, it feels like the flu, but it's like my neck and my spine hurts so bad that I like can't move and I can't sleep for days because like my whole body feels like I got hit by a truck. Weirdest thing ever. And then I like periodically get a fever with it. So I've just been running around like a crazy person doing testing and like seeing different doctors and like nobody knows what it is. But I was sick with that November. I got hit really bad. I was like 2 weeks I was sick with that. And then again in December, January, February, no idea what it is. So that's been primarily what's going on, is just constantly being sick and not knowing what's happening with me. So as much as I would love to and that's like the physical health part of it. And then I imagine we'll probably talk more about like the mental health side of it. But it's been really tough. Like I just said to you not even 5 minutes ago, I mentally rely on like being able to be fit and be active and like participate in these things. And when you can't do that, whether it's temporary injury or it's like long-term chronic illness, it's really frustrating. And not only do I like live everyday normal life, waking up every day, some kind of sick, but then also like trying to train through it and like not having energy or like constantly being exhausted or like my body hurts for no reason, or I'm like on steroids for the inflammation and then the steroids make me feel like shit. Like it's always something, and that's the frustrating part because I just want to like be normal me, and I want to be able to like keep up with my training partners, and I want to be able to go ham 24/7. But right now and for like the last couple months, my training has been like terrible. Like I show up to train and I leave frustrated and I feel less loving and passionate about jujitsu because I can't perform the way that I know that I'm able to, like if I'm healthy. And so that's the frustrating part to me. And it's really hard to like find motivation and keep going when it's like every day I'm like, I just want to feel good for one day, you know? But that being said, I think it's interesting the ways that I've sort of like adapted my training, and then also little ways that I've found to keep engaging with the community and like stay active as like a BJJ athlete in general, and not just like with my training, because we talked about this before. Like I'm not, number one in the world. I'm not like winning crazy stuff or anything, but for some people, it's like it is that I'm the everyday kind of person. And I re-signed with Hyperfly this year again for that reason. We had a really great conversation about it, and like this was in the middle of my December, January, which was like the peak of everything that was going on with me. And I basically said to them, I was like, I am not your top producer. I am not your top competitor. I'm actually not competing at all right now. Like, I don't even know what you can expect from me this year. Like, I will keep up with content. I'm in school. I'm dealing with a disability. I'm dealing with chronic illness. Like, I can only give you so much. And so, like, if you're looking for these like really high level competitors and like these really crazy athletes, like, I'm not your girl right now. And they basically responded and they were like, that's why we love you. Like, you represent 99% of the population that does jujitsu. Like, 1% of people will go be a world champion, or like, like it's such a small percentage that are at the top. And even though they're like a relatively large brand, I think it's like so amazing and so important that I feel supported that way, and that like I'm allowed to just exist and be me, and I don't have to feel like it's burdensome to them, or like our partnership is based off of them valuing me as like a person, and the personality and the passion and the heart that I bring to jujitsu and the stuff that I work through. And like that was a really big accomplishment for me this year, was like not only having them, because I've had them for a while, but like bonding with them in a way that was like we mutually understood that like they see me and I see them, and like we can help each other out, and like I can still be supported as an athlete even when I'm not competing, or like even when I'm not a top level competitor. And that makes me feel good. So yeah, that brings us up to like current day pretty much.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I lurk. I follow your stories. They're always interesting, whether it be you're talking about being ill, or just sharing jujitsu content, whether it be on the main wall or in your stories as well. So I was semi aware, but not in depth, because it's weird being in the stories. I always feel like I don't want to be too like invested, because then it's like Rachel was like, "Hey man, I'm sorry to hear that." I was like, "What? Like what? Like, why are you reaching out to me?" I was like, "Sorry to your stories." But I could imagine that just with yourself being an active person, and just I've said it before. It's like you're probably the busiest person I know. Like that's why I'm always like, should I ask her? Could you be on a podcast? Oh well, I get it. You're busy as fuck. But being that active, being that busy, whether it be in school, work, jujitsu, creating content, anything, it's like it's got to be frustrating to have your energy zapped. Just being exhausted all the time, like it's got to be maddening. I would say, but at the same time, shout out to you for you know working, pushing through, and then also shout out to Hyperfly, just because that's big. I have a friend who is sponsored by Hyperfly, and they had a major injury, had major knee surgery, and then they come back, and then they ended up pregnant. And Hyperfly was like, "All right, we got you. It's cool." I mean, they're not the type of group to say, "Oh, word, you can't do this." Dang, man, that sucks to be you, buddy. All right, well, I don't know what you're gonna do, but we going somewhere else.
I mean, I knew that they were like really lovely people before I even like signed with them, and it was in conversation, and they've always been amazing to work with. But it just like solidified it, and it's the thing that drew me to them, or that drew them to me, was initially like my identity with the queer community, and like wanting to branch out and like have that diversity and representation, which was amazing. And I think it's interesting that it's sort of like evolved into this like disability advocacy, and that's what life is, right? Like you evolve into like these different lived experiences, and that's the work that I'm doing, or I did in grad school. And so it's weird to like see my life take this little turn, and now I have like different relationships and different perspectives, just because I have enough lived experiences to change the trajectory of like what is the most important to me. And so it's great like working with a brand that is here for all the ebbs and flows, and just here to support, and like they're the most inclusive. And I feel like if I went to them and I was like, hey, I really need to get this message out there, they would absolutely like give me the megaphone. And I think that's important. But yeah, I feel lucky to like still be part of that. And I was really worried about that too, because I was like, I hope they don't think I'm like underperforming, or like I just want to be able to show up. And this whole year has just been like illness and sickness and exhaustion and burnout. And it's been really weird for me, because for the last 23 years of my life, I've just been like, go, 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 go. I don't know how to stop. I do everything. And I overperform in everything. It's not even I'm just doing everything. It's like I need to be the best at every single thing I do, which, yeah, is not realistic long term. But it's like really weird having to slow my life down. And there was a point in December, which I mean I can get into, but where I had like a 2-3 month long episode of like derealization and panic disorder, which like I've had my whole life, but like I get episodes, they're just usually not that long. So I had like a really severe episode in December, and I like had to cancel everything. I was like, no school, no work. My mom came and got me. I went back to my mom's house for like 2 weeks, and they like switched my medication and everything. And it was crazy. And I truthfully don't remember a lot of it, because like when I come out of my episodes, I don't remember like what happened while I was in them. And if you don't know what derealization disorder is, or panic disorder, so like people know what panic attacks are, because people have them for like known causes, like presentations, like you're about to give a presentation, or like somebody's chasing you, like your body naturally panics. The panic disorder part comes when like your body just stays in a constant state of panic, or like recurring panic attacks with like no probable cause. So like I'm just sitting at home, and then like I just start freaking out, and there's like my heart rate usually doesn't stay below like 100. Like my resting heart rate's like 100, 110. On a good day I get like 70 to 90. But my body's like constantly in like waves of panic for absolutely no reason. It's a little better now because like I switched my medication, but that's like sort of one half of the puzzle. And then when things get really bad, I also have derealization disorder, which is like everything feels fake, and like all my senses get distorted. So like my sense of touch goes, and like my vision gets distorted, so everything looks 2D. And then like my auditory processing like doesn't work. So it's really weird, because it's this like it's a psychological condition obviously, but like it's felt very physically, and so it like alters my ability to interact with the environment and like with people. And like I sort of lose cognitive function in and out, because my body goes like catatonic. Like it's the most like one of the most severe forms of like CPTSD, and my body just trying to like literally retract itself from reality. So yeah, it can get like pretty severe, and fortunately like I do a pretty decent job managing it for the most part, with the exception of like in December, January, February time, that was like rough, and it took me a while to like bounce back from that. But yeah, that's crazy. And it actually, like when I do describe it, people are like, that you actually sound crazy. Like to a person that doesn't know what that is, like you actually sound insane. I'm like, yeah, probably, except it's even crazier when you're the one that's experiencing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, as you're describing it, I'm sitting there thinking like, man, that sounds like me on edibles a few weeks
No,
back.
it
I'm just,
literally feels like someone gave me acid I didn't want. That's exactly what it
Mhm.
feels like. But it feels like you don't know when the drugs are going to wear off. Like you don't know if they're going to wear off. That's what it feels like.
That's how I feel when I am on drugs. I'm like, shit, is this ever gonna
Is this
stop?
ever gonna end? Yeah, and so like all those months of training, obviously, like you've probably seen the stuff that I posted, and this has been around for my whole life. Like I've had flare ups. My my longest like episode of derealization was in 10th grade, and it literally lasted all of 10th grade. I actually don't remember any of 10th grade because, like I said, I come out of these and I have no recollection of like what happened. Um, so I don't remember really any part of 10th grade, and I survived like pretty well throughout first couple of years of college and like into like when I started picking up jujitsu a little bit more, and I was doing really well. Um, and then I don't know, I just get like breakthrough episodes, and obviously life's a little more stressful, and I was dealing with some other stuff at the time, so I'm quite sure that it's like compounding factors. But it definitely threw me for a loop, and it was on top of like those already pre-existing health issues, and so I was really just like down bad all winter, trying to fix stuff now, trying to like find answers, but yeah, that one's like gonna be around a while, even if I figure out what my sort of like other health problems are, like the autoimmune stuff. Even if that goes away, like I'm still gonna have this, or like I'm still gonna have like the psychological side of stuff. And I've always like before I was really experiencing like episodes of this again, I was relatively open about like being super anxious or like even just having panic disorder. I was like open about that. Um, but I think it's like a different discussion now because it was like so debilitating and like affected my life so much that I was like, okay, I can't just like keep passing this off as like this little quirk that I have. Like it really affects my life and it affects what I'm able to do. And like I need to be a little bit more open about it now and like actually learn how to advocate for myself so that I can minimize some of the discomfort that I feel all the time. So I told my coaches about it, and they know everything now, and like I keep them in the loop with my health and stuff. And of course, they're very supportive. I just always feel like I'm letting them down because I can never like train how I want to or like show up as much as I want to. Um, but yeah, it sort of like evolved into this um, really like debilitating thing that like I still deal with, even though I'm medicated and it seems to be like working. I still get like breakthrough episodes, or like I still go through waves of like having good and bad days, and that's just part of it. And so that's also another part of the conversation is like navigating jujitsu, not just like with a physical chronic illness, but also like the invisible disability aspect of it, and like the psychological health, and like everybody that sees me on social media, not so much now because I am open about it and like I post about it and I like that transparency side of it now. But like to the average person, like I look relatively normal and like I have a pretty outgoing personality, and for the most part, like I do just try to like suck it up and get through it and like move forward and do what I got to do and like keep a game face on. But um you can't really tell, like unless I tell you about it, like you probably wouldn't know.
I mean, I think, like you said, though, the invisible, disabilities are kind of the trickier ones because, you're just out and about living your life, and people like, Sav, come on, let's go out and do this, and it's just like everything's fine on the surface. That's what they see,
Yeah.
but deep down, you might be right at the front door of an episode where you're about to, you know, lose your shit, and it's like, but I feel like that could get kind of tricky too, just depending on the folks you're around, because just being on social media alone, you see people that are constantly bashing anything and everything, or they just lump everyone into one group. It's like, oh, oh, you got anxiety, well, join the club. Everybody has anxiety, and it's like, oh, okay, it's not just that, so having the invisible disabilities that that folks don't necessarily not even just see but understand, I could imagine it is tricky to navigate around.
Yeah.
um like for you, do you know what triggers it? or what you know kind of a heads up, if like you're in a situation or something, you're like, okay, this I should remove myself from this scenario now before it goes where it doesn't need to.
Yeah, absolutely. There are certain things that I like will not do, or like places I won't go, or like things that I know I have to like prepare myself for, or like take a Xanax before I go. Which like sounds bad, but also like I tried it without it, and even when I do take medication, like I said, it doesn't always work. Um, but I would say number one, like it's sort of like which thing triggers like derealization or panic or both, but like to me they're sort of separate. um Crowded places, grocery stores, like the mall, Costco, also things that are like really overstimulating or have like bright lights, loud noises. Those will like trigger panic attacks usually. But also if like the lighting's weird, or if I stare at something too long, or like if I think about it too hard, like I can put myself into like a dissociative derealization episode. So like I have like my own little tools in my head that I like think about, or like count down from 100, or like do like math in my head so I don't think about it. I have like all these little things like nobody knows I'm doing in my brain, but I'm just actively trying to like keep myself out of an episode. Um, but it's mostly like the crowds of people, or also like small groups of people, but people that like don't understand me. And this is like such a big one, and the reason why I don't really like socialize. I mean, yes, I'm a very social person. If I have to socialize, I will. I love to like talk to people and get to know people, but the people that I surround myself with, like I really only have like 3 or 4 close friends. Um, my mom is like one of my best friends, and my coaches and my teammates, and like everybody that I hang out with regularly like understands me, and they understand what I live with and what it feels like, and I feel comfortable around them. So it gives me like less anticipatory anxiety, or like less fear of having an episode, to be around them, because I know that if I did, they would know how to respond, and they wouldn't like make me feel bad about it. And so I've had to like adjust a lot of my life to not like do as much, or like go places. And like I have friends from college or whatever that would like ask me to go out, and they're like, do you want to go to the bar, do you want to go to Al's and play pool? And it's like, old me who like wasn't in some heightened episode of this would love to, but like me right now knows that I am like probably going to be uncomfortable, or like it might trigger some sort of panic. And that's the other part about like trying to make friends and socialize, is like I now feel a need to like disclose this to people, because it makes me more comfortable, number one, knowing that like people see me and understand me. And like part of the anxiety that I get at like going places and doing stuff is that I feel like if it happens, like people will judge me, or like it's like the fear of perception, like I feel like I'm going to be perceived as like weird, or like annoying, or burdensome. Even though like I have plenty of tools, like I'm a grown ass woman, I take care of myself and I'll figure it out. But like I want to know that the people I'm surrounded by understand me, and like don't have a problem like accommodating me. And so like that socialization aspect has become a lot harder, because people will invite me to do stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to. Or they'll be like, no, it's okay, like I have anxiety too. And I'm like, I'm not here to minimize anyone's experience. Like any level of anxiety is not fun, but when my anxiety, like the way that I experience it, or like my level of support needs, is like slightly different than yours, I'm assuming. um and I feel like it's just really hard for people to like empathize with, or even understand if I'm like, I have severe anxiety. They're like, oh, me too. And I'm like, um you might have really bad anxiety, and like I said, like I will never diminish anyone's feelings or discomforts or whatever it is, because they're all severe. And like somebody's 10 might be my 1, I have no idea. But like it's not just like the anxiety that like internally affects me, but like I like my limbs literally go numb, I convulse. Like it's not fun, it's like a whole body experience. And so like that physical aspect is what prevents me from like doing certain things, or like competing, for example, because I know that like the competition part, and like right now just like feeling heightened anxiety, and also being like sick with other things, like it gives me the anticipatory anxiety. And I know that like the environment itself is overstimulating. So if I do, I'm gonna just like try it or like ease into it and see what happens. But my coach doesn't want me competing anyway until I have like at least like 3 months of steady training, which I don't think he's like wrong for thinking that, but like I need to have some sort of consistent training before I try to like jump in and go compete again.
I don't know. That's totally understandable, and kudos to your coach for that, because there's some folks that are just like, oh, okay, what? You've been back out there for about a month. Go ahead, jump out there. And some people can do that. So some folks can, they just still flow with it, but realistically, coming off the injury and then just everything that's going on with you, it's like, look, take it easy. Don't rush yourself out there. Uh, like I wish, actually, it's not. I wish I'm gonna make my friends listen to this episode so they understand. Like, I'm not saying that you and I are on that same level, but like, folks ask me, like, "Hey, you want to go out?" And I'm like, afraid not, buddy. Don't like, and I always try to explain to people, it's like, look, man, I don't feel comfortable in crowds. I'm like, maybe it's paranoia. I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable in crowds. And I'll manage. I'll go out there and do the thing, but like my wife and I, we were talking about this recently. Where I can't remember where the hell we were. We were out somewhere, and we are socializing, and we're at a wedding. It was a fun time, Like, I'm super awkward, but I was just like, okay. My wife's out there trying to promote my podcast and shit. Like, what the fuck is you doing? Like, we had a wedding. She saw a girl with like skull stockings or something. It's like, hey, do you guys like horror movies? I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. But it's like this mingling and getting along and dancing and everything. And the whole time this is all going on, I'm like just shutting down inside, like, oh my God, like, after I get up and do something, I gotta go sit down and just hang out. And my wife and I talked about it later that night. And I was like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably not doing anything for the next 3-4 days. That zapped all my energy. Just like the nerves, just like it just felt really, really unsettling for me. And that's at a wedding where we're all focused on the bride and the groom, but for me, I just feel like all these people are surrounding me. But it's got to be frustrated, like you said, with people are like, hey, Sav, you want to come out? Let's, go to this club. I was like, no, like, trying to explain to them, it's like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's good to be around folks who do respect, your stance and understand, what's going on with you.
Yeah. And even if I didn't deal with the things that I deal with, I probably still wouldn't want to go out and be social. Like, I feel like I'm just, when I was younger and I was like, I felt better and I had energy and it was like the thing to be social. Like, I wanted to go out and have fun and do stuff, but now I just want to get better and I just want to like be better in all areas and I want to like accomplish cool stuff and build things and like and buy property and build a house and like there's other goals that are in mind and I don't, maybe that's just like part of growing up, but I don't feel a need to like go be social. And I feel like everybody, my support system that I need, I have on deck, and I'm happy with the people that are in my circle. And so if somebody adds to that, fantastic, it's going to happen naturally, but I don't feel a need to like go out and be social or like go to the bar. I also don't drink. I don't do any of that stuff. I already feel sick all the time. I don't want to feel worse. So I'm kind of okay with it. It's just the only thing that is challenging is when I don't get a choice or like I'm forced to be social or like I have like it's a work thing or I have to go meet a client or like somebody that I don't know. It's always people I don't know that like make me the most uncomfortable because like I've had to be like, hey, excuse me for 5 minutes. Like I just need to like go out and get some air and like try to reground myself. Like I'm having a flare up in the middle of an important meeting and like it's just I don't know. Like I wouldn't say I'm embarrassed, but like it's easier to navigate when I'm not in the episode. So I would rather do it beforehand. Like if I meet someone and I'm like of sound mind and like I feel okay, I'm like, hey, while I'm feeling good, I'm just gonna let you know that this thing might happen or like I might have to step out for 10 minutes or like whatever it is, just bear with me, because when I feel okay, like I can explain it really well, like the way that I just explained it to you, or like I feel okay. But if I'm like in the middle of an episode and I'm having to like not only deal with feeling like that and trying to like ground myself, but also now I have to try to explain it to all those people, like while it's happening, I would rather do it beforehand and just like cover all my bases. So, if anything, this process has taught me how to like advocate for myself better, because I was never good at like asking for things or advocating for myself or anyone, and it's given me like a deeper understanding of like disability and disability justice, and um, it's contributed a lot of really valuable things. Even though I do feel frustrated by it, I do get discouraged and disappointed, but two things can exist at one time, so I'm trying to take the salt and the honey, I guess.
Fair. Um, you know, thinking back to what you said there with just where you are now, you're not, in the party mode or socializing mode of like, I have to go out and do this. I think, that is part of the growing up experience though. You know, I have friends that, we're in our 40s. And they're so like, let's go out. I'm like, son, I did that shit back when I was 20 something. I went through my 30s kind of weaning myself off of. I'm in my 40s. I got a kid, I got, family. It's not party time. Party time for me is, playing Candyland with my daughter, or building Legos with my daughter, or going bowling with my daughter, going, to the arcade with my family. That's party time to me. And even with those things, it's still, because like being at the arcade is all the noise and, but we found a time. We found out on a Wednesday afternoon at 4:30. If you hop in there, there is no one there but staff.
That's like me going to
And
Costco. If I go to Costco at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, there's no one there.
hey, you gotta find your windows.
Survival tool. That's like what my whole life is, and people don't know that there's like rhymes and reasons for me doing stuff. But I'm like, oh, they're like, well, why do you do that? And I'm like, well, because if I don't do that, then I don't feel good, or like it triggers this thing, or like I have all these little tips and tricks. I mean, you don't know that if you're not the person that's living with it. But yeah, adjusting life is like whether you're adjusting it because that's what you're interested in doing, or you're adjusting because of your schedule, or you're adjusting because of an illness, or whatever's going on. That's like I really think that is what getting older is you just like shift your priorities, and then sometimes your priorities are choices that you make, and other times you don't get to have a choice and you're given a priority.
Oh yeah, I mean, becoming a parent was one of those things where it's like, that was our choice. We chose to become parents, but it's also one of those things like it's here. You now don't have it. You can't just turn around and say, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I mean, you can. People do. I've seen it, but responsible people, don't just say, I think I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I miss partying. I'm going back out. But it's like, we do the same thing. Like as a family, again, we go to things when we know there's going to be fewer people that we like. We selectively choose when we go to the movies, like Sunday mornings,
Yep.
11 o'clock. Everybody at church, not us.
Golden hour.
Oh yeah, and I mean the funny thing is our daughter. She's extremely social. She's also 8, So that's that's that time for a lot of kids. She wants to, let's go to the playground, let's go to this place, let's go here. But she also understands though too is if we go somewhere, it's not about the socialization and folks being there. It's the experience of going there. It's like, hey, you want to go play mini golf? Hey,
Yep.
let's go at this time. Okay, there's no one here but us. I don't care. I want to play, she's like, I'm just down to play mini golf. But if there are people there, it doesn't affect her. At least it doesn't seem to affect her like it affects myself. Where but I'm also kind of in parent mode as well. I'm on guard, looking out for my daughter. I'm also just nervous, like in my own head as well. But the biggest priority at that point is making sure my daughter is okay, which she's really solid about staying close by. And even though she's a socializer, she still loves to cling to myself and my wife. But Um, you know, for yourself, uh, when you've competed in the past, like how much has this all affected you, previously, whether it be super fight or just a tournament or anything. How has that, has it been a major thing for you, or have you been able to kind of dance around it?
I when I was younger and competing, I definitely had like bouts of anxiety, and I pulled out of like a couple local tournaments when I didn't feel well, or like I've been sick so many times with that like autoimmune thing that I have. We'll call it the mystery illness for lack of better knowledge, but I've gotten that so many times and had to like pull out of competitions. But the like derealization and panic portion of it, mostly when I was younger, I want to say like 18, 19, it was like when I was competing at white belt. Um, and then I definitely before competitions, like I do get really nervous, but it's a lot of like that anticipatory anxiety. But that's why I'm sort of like hesitant to go back to competing, because I haven't tried competing while in this sort of like wobbly state of existence. Um, and that's not to say I like didn't live with either of them before, but I just think it's interesting that they never really like came out while I was competing, or I had it over COVID and stuff, and during COVID I wasn't competing, so it was like the timeline sort of like just perfectly lined up to where I've never competed with like a heightened flare up of this. So I'm curious if I go back to competing, like I think I'm gonna have to make, like I call it like a proof or like an argument for myself, where it's like I ease into stuff, and that was the reacclimation process after getting out of this like 2 month episode I had back in December, January, where it's like being a kid. It's like literally being born into the world and having to relearn how to do stuff. Um, and it seems wild now because I'm to a point where I can go into Wegmans and I can like go shopping and like I can go places. I'm not always comfortable, but like I can do things that at one point, right at the end of this episode, or like as I was like turning the corner, I couldn't like leave the house. I couldn't think about doing work. I couldn't, like, I literally was catatonic at my mom's house. And I thought that I was like never going to return to normalcy. And I was like, I'm stuck in this forever. Um, I wasn't. But, it's like that sort of anticipatory waiting of like, is this going to happen again? Do I need, like, how can I better prepare? And having to like sprinkle and like reintroduce life things to myself. So I went from doing nothing to then, okay, well, I'll do an hour of work today, or like I'll see if I can go for a walk, or I'll see if I can like call somebody on the phone and like have a conversation. And then all of these little things that I'm able to do become like an argument for the next time. So it's like, well, last week you were able to go into Wegmans for 2 minutes, so now today you can go in for 5. Or like you survived just fine last time, you can do it alone now. Like you're fine. So a lot of it is like literally reasoning with myself and trying to piece together like logistical arguments as to, like, why I can do something. But likewise, there's also the opposite that exists, where it's like if I have a negative experience, like say I were to compete and I were to like step on the mats and then be in the middle of competing and have some sort of episode, or like start to dissociate or like feel weird, then like I would be fearful to compete again. Or like the next time I go to compete, it's sort of like triggered by the memory of that happening before. So it's a really slippery slope. Like it could either really help me and like form an argument as to like why I'll be fine, or it's like, holy shit, the last time you were in the car, you dissociated. And you dissociated so bad that you started freaking out, and then you were convulsing, and then you couldn't drive. So, oh yeah, I didn't drive for like 2 months. It was crazy. Driving was actually really triggering at first too. That would like boom send me into immediate, like I can't see, I can't hear, I can't. That was crazy. But anyway, so yeah, it's newer. Like the intensity of it is newer. I would say like it's definitely amped up, which is why I feel like it before it was manageable, and now that's why it transitioned to like from like condition to like disability, because it did affect my life for like certain periods of time, but not so much steadily. And now I feel like it's something that is like a constant problem, to the point where my life is altered for potentially forever. Like, I have no idea how long it's going to stay this bad, but yeah.
That's got to be, again, frustrating, scary, because like you said, this could be forever. You know, it could get better in 6 months. You know, it could be here. It could get worse. The older you get. Hopefully not. But I don't know. It's like, and I guess this is kind of the effect of seeing your personality. It's like in my mind, I'm optimistic for you. I'm like, hey, you're a strong person. You got a strong personality, and you're a hard worker. I believe in you. I think you're gonna. I think you're gonna be fine. But that's also my personality too. I'm just always like, everything's gonna be okay. Hey, dude, your house is on fire. Yeah, it'll be all right though. I got insurance. Like, it'll be fine. But also just like hearing this, it's like, damn, dude, like, again, seeing stuff in your stories, it's like, I see words I don't understand, like big words. I'm like, damn, that's a school word. I think she made that shit up. Um, like, like why there's so many like consonants in a row? Jesus. But seeing the stuff in your stories is kind of like, okay, she's going through some things. But to me, it's still, it's still sad. She's still got that personality, that energy, but that's what you allow us.
Yeah.
And we're thankful for what you allow us. So thank you for that. But knowing, this is what's going on behind the scenes, that's also just another thought for us to be aware of. So it's like, to be respectful. It's like, okay, we haven't heard from her in a while. Let her have her space. Check in.
She's
Like,
probably catatonic at her mom's house.
like, hey, we haven't heard from you in a while. You good? You at your mom's chilling? Like, what's going on? Like, well, hey, so I can only type so much right now because right now, not fully functional. But yeah, I'm good. Just give me some time. And again, thanks for just opening up and sharing this experience, because I think with a lot of stuff, folks feel uncertain about sharing, uh like uncomfortable because you don't know how people are going to take it. But I think also there's a power in that, in knowing like, look, this is my truth, this is who I am. And you know if this is a problem to you, then you don't have to be here. I think as I've gotten older, that's been my attitude about a lot of things now. Like,
Well,
my
and it's
mom's like, oh,
gotta be. It's like I, so many of the people that I've met, mostly like through the university, because like I said, I did my graduate thesis on um, access and disability and like physical built environments and changing protocol and all that stuff. I met a lot of people with a variety of different disabilities and like found a lot of community through that and like really unique shared experiences that I thought like I was the only one. But I think it's like the more support that I found, or like the more that I tell people about what I experience, even if they look at me and they're like, you sound crazy, like you literally sound insane. There's no way that's possible. Or like, that's wild. Or they invalidate me or whatever it is. Like, what are they going to do? Make me feel uncomfortable? I'm uncomfortable every day of my life. I feel like shit every day. Like, what are you going to do that it's not already being done? So I would rather like start the conversation about like that advocacy and the access part of everything. And my whole graduate thesis is literally based around the fact that like we only recognize physical disability and like things are only in place to aid physical disability, but like there's so many people that live with so many invisible disabilities, and we haven't changed any of our spaces, any of our protocol to like make life easier for those people. And part of that is just like the education portion of it. And so I feel like if I'm going to contribute anything, I was probably put on the earth and given this situation so that I can advocate for people and I can educate people about it. even if it sounds insane at first, like at least you've heard of it, so that the next time you run into someone who's like, hey, I have panic disorder, you're like, okay, I've heard of that before. Like and based off of what Sav told me, I know this is probably how I should act. Like I'm fine educating people, and I will always like do my best to respectfully educate. But if you, number one, blatantly don't care to learn, that's like ableist to me, and I don't really fuck with that. And number two, like if you do learn something and then you like actively continue to cause harm to the community, whether it's like the disabled community or like other minority communities, then if you are as educated as you say you are, then change your behavior and change your language, and that's all I request of you. But yeah, if you want to try to like make me feel like shit about it, good luck, because I feel like shit every day of my life. So
I think people who, are that way though, it's like, and we know they exist, obviously, the closed-minded ones and it's, I don't even think it's so much, well, it is closed-minded, but it's like those folks who haven't experienced anything, you know, I have friends who, we'll have conversations and just you could tell by the way that they talk about things. It's like, well, you've never met anyone like this before, or you've never dealt with this before, or you only see the world from your eyes, and that's fine. I mean, they're your eyes, that's your viewpoint, sure, whatever. But understand this: you're going to run into a lot more different things the more you step outside of your bubble. Whereas, in the thing with the internet, the internet is very weird because we're like, well, living your life in the internet, it's this and it's that, and it's like most folks that I communicate with is through Instagram and in this podcast, and that's through the internet, and I feel like I get a good dose of different personalities, and that's a big part of why I love doing this is speaking to different individuals on their experiences and just kind of hearing their stories and seeing where they're coming from, whether they you know think that oh well, there's no such thing as an invisible illness. It's like, well, there very much is, but here, tell me more. I want to understand why you think that's okay. Like you said, it's like, well, I don't fucks with that.
yeah.
Okay. But that's the thing. It's like you have those individuals. It's like, well, they've just never really sat down and talked with anybody
It's
who may
really
be
a
going
lack
through
of
this.
education, and like any topic that you're like, wow, I can't believe you feel comfortable saying that. That's like my favorite thing to say is like somebody says something, I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe you feel comfortable saying that out loud. And then they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, great learning opportunity. Um, but it's usually what it is like lack of empathy and lack of education. And if someone has the lived experience or the empathy because they've gone through something similar or they can relate to it, that's typically the fastest route to getting them to understand you. But there's also the education route, and unless you're a person that actively tries to learn new things, keep up with stuff, dig through those peer-reviewed articles on a late Saturday night, it's like you're not going to learn unless you're trying to learn, because unfortunately we live in a world where we're not forced to learn about disability or like minority history or culture or whatever it might be. And like, I mean, this ties into so many things, but it's like like we live in a world that is ill-equipped for everybody, and it's designed for the specific group of people that like created the systems and the paradigms that we live under. And it's what we call like a compulsory preference for non-disability. So like everything that's embedded into the world is created and like gives success to people who do not belong to that community, or like the same thing with like racist principles and like the systemic racism that exists in every single component of all of our systems, and the sexism and everything else. Like it's all deeply embedded because we live in a world that favors a certain typology of person, and if you don't fit into that, it makes it really hard to like succeed or like get to the same end destination as someone of that composition. So, I mean, I think my goal and my purpose in this life is to just be an educator and come up with creative solutions and not be afraid to advocate for myself, because I'm a lot of person, and I have like a very forceful personality when I need to, and like when it comes to advocating for myself. And I wasn't always like that. I wasn't always good at it, but nobody's going to advocate for my health except for me. I am who I was born with, and I am who I will die with. And I refuse to like live a lower quality of life than I can possibly get. And right now, like living in discomfort or like having so much going on, yeah, it is important for me to like get every last little drop of goodness that I can get. So I'm going to request it. I'm going to ask for things that make me more comfortable, and I'm going to advocate for people that need my help or that like don't feel comfortable advocating for themselves. And I think that's probably my job here.
Hey, I mean, if you're not doing it, then who is? So,
But like I said, I have like the people that are sitting next to me that like are in my corner are the best people, and they get it. And so I want to like be for other people the way that I like they make me feel comfortable. So I have, okay, wait, this is a really cute story, and I'll tell you, but only because like we're like openly dating now. But my teammate a couple months ago, when I was like in the middle of my flare up and whatnot, and I was like still trying to go to practice, but I would go to practice and then I would start exercising, like even if I was like having derealization, like I still just like showed up and spaced out and like did the workout or whatever. But I would start exercising and my heart rate would increase, and that would trigger the panic attack. Whether it was like just regular lifting or like it was jujitsu, like my heart would start pounding and it would just like send me into automatic panic. And so I would like actively like take breaks like on the side of the mat, or like I'd lay down, or like sometimes like I have my service dog with me, whatever. But my teammate was like we were getting closer, and like I had opened up to him. I explained this because he's like one of my main training partners, and I was like, hey, just so you know, like I'm not always gonna be here, or like you're gonna have to work with me because I might, I may or may not be good place or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I got you, whatever. And so I noticed that like he would see me like during rolls or whatever, like I'd go sit on the side, or like sometimes I like stim with my fingers, like I tap just because it like helps me get some of like the anxiety out. Like it feels like it goes through my fingers, so like I like do my little finger tapping. And like he would like see me doing that, and he'd like come over and sit next to me and like just like make enough contact like with his foot, or like just put his arm on me, so like I knew he was there and like I had something to ground myself to, which like doesn't seem like a huge thing, but I thought it was like so sweet because he was just my training partner at the time. Like he didn't owe me anything other than the fact that like we were good friends, but he was like, I see you, like I'm here to support you. And that like made me want to like keep training, or like I would get over it, or like my heart rate would go down and then I'd get back to it. And so I just like the support, I can't emphasize enough that like even as training partners, even if you don't know someone really well, or like if someone doesn't even open up to you, but like you can tell something's off, like just be that support person. And like you don't have to understand everything. Like he didn't know everything at the time, but he generally knew what was going on, or like knew that I wasn't doing well, and he was just there, and that's like all I could ask for. And I thought it was just like the sweetest thing ever.
It's super, super important and very cool because, it's good to know that someone's there.
Yeah.
Someone gets it, they care. And not even just like you said, he didn't know like everything, but it's enough to like see someone like, hey, they're all, on their own. And, let me just let them know, look, if you need, I got you. And it's important. And I think that's super cool. And, good for you guys. For you. I don't have the soundboard attached for our video recordings, but, you got the clap and the applause going on, but good for you guys. Good. Yeah. I feel like whenever I clap into the microphone, it sounds weird. So I'm like, they're like, what the fuck kind of podcast is this?
So funny.
But yeah, good. good for him, and just having a big heart and caring, and good for you for just going through everything that you're going through, and continuing to fight, and you know just understanding, like, look, man, I'm still me. It's just I'm me with some new additives,
Yeah.
and a little bit more flair to my personality now. That's
I'm me.
unique.
I'm just tired and spicy and a little grumpy sometimes and in pain. But I'm still doing stuff. I'm still doing all the same stuff. I'm just like making modifications as I need to. And like some days, every once in a while, I'll wake up and I'm like, I feel good. Like, let's go train. And then other days I wake up and I'm like, it's not happening today. um, and that's like part of what I owe myself is like the variability and the flexibility. And that's what I ask for from my coaches and from my training partners or from friends and bosses is like just the flexibility and the understanding. And anybody that knows me well enough knows that like it will always be reciprocated, and that like they can always come to me and I will give you the same level of support that you need or the same level of comfort. Like as a person who like I am fed by that and like I am made to feel comfortable by that support and comfort, like I it's my main mission to always like give that to other people. And if I can do anything for people, it's going to be to like comfort them and make them feel safe and heard and understood, because that's like what I want.
Well, if if it means anything from where I'm sitting, I think you're doing a great job. And
Thanks.
you know, like, just everything you said there is like, well, yeah, it checks all the boxes. That's who I thought I was talking to, and she just confirmed it. So outstanding. All right, well, Sav, thank you very much for sharing all of this with us, sharing your experience. Since back in July after the competition, which the mess up thing in my mind is I remember we talked. I was like, "Oh, dude, I'd like to go down and see your match." And then I saw the post, I saw the date, and everything was like, "Oh yeah, I'm free for that day." And me, who doesn't keep a calendar, so yeah, after I saw you put the post up after the match, I was like, "Fuck, I missed it. Fuck, fuck, fuck." And I saw you broke your arm, and I was like, or not broke your arm, but like I saw you in a sling. I was like, Jesus Christ, she broke her arm. Like, it's
Yeah,
my fault. I should have been there. I would
no,
have tagged
it's
in.
okay. No, you live and you learn, and it was fine. And I love Jonna Wood. I think she's so sweet, and she's the coolest. So I'm not mad at her. She did what she had to do. It's all
I mean,
business.
it, it's all in the game. So, but you know, shout out to you for taking the match and getting out there and working. I mean, like we talked before. You're like, look, I'll go against anybody, and it's
Hey,
like, damn,
either
real
it's
relaxed.
gonna be an experience or it's gonna be an experience. And I really do hope that this year I'm able to like get back to competing. I'd love to at least hop into something local and start to like work my way back up or like do it when I feel good. And if that means I register for a tournament and it's the day of and I'm like I can't do it, don't feel good, then I don't do it. But at least that way I'm registered in case I do wake up and I'm like, let's get this bread. you know. But I think that's definitely on the goal list now is get my health in line, figure out what this mystery illness is, and try to decrease my stress levels and hopefully feel a little more normal. And then when I talk to you in another couple months, we'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I was worried about that.
Well, I'm optimistic that we're gonna get there. I believe in you,
Me too.
and I'm looking forward to it. Um, Before we get out of here, got any shout outs or mentions that you want to drop for us?
Just Hyperfly we already talked about, but I feel like that's huge, and I appreciate them always. And coaches, teammates, you for letting me on the podcast, and my mom because my mom is like my best friend, and she takes good care of me all the time.
Hey, shout out to the moms.
Shout
Big
out,
shout
mom!
outs.
You're literally my best friend, and she
Yeah.
also is like kind of a feisty mom, so like especially with all the doctors and everything, because I get sometimes a little scared to advocate for myself. Mama Bear will call them up and she'll be like, "You need to send that over right now. I asked you to fax this 3 times." She'll just go off. So I
Hey,
love her for that.
hey, man, that's what the parents are there for. Like I said, with my daughter, hey, she may not speak up for her. Like, hey, hold on, hey, nah, I got this.
My mom will. If I won't, my mom will.
So, love to hear it. Love to hear it. And hey, again, shout out to Hyperfly. Like you got me over here like right now. I'm like on their site, like, oh, let me see, like let me go like spend some money with them right now because I'm
No, and I
convinced.
like really do love them, and like they're literally my favorite geese and stuff. And I just don't know, like I just feel like I got really lucky because finding them was an accident. Like, well, it wasn't an accident; it was intentional on my end, but I didn't think anything was gonna come of it. And then they were like, "Yeah, we'd love to try this out," and now I just love them, and I love wearing all of them.
Well, I've only heard good things about them, and you're the third person now that I know that is sponsored by them, and they are flexible and understanding. So, like, for what it's worth, hey, I love them too. Like, I,
Yay!
when I order, I'm gonna hit that promo code.
Do
I
it.
got you, girl. I got you. Um,
Thanks.
but yeah, we'll definitely throw them in the notes out there and make sure they get some recognition and love. And as always, to the listeners, thank you. If you got any questions, concerns, criticisms, even, because it's a free world. Criticize me if you need to. Let me know my sound ain't right. Let me know that I say too much. I've been working on it. I got an audio book that's been telling me how not to do it. But reach out. Let me know. You can find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram, or you can find me at Off the Mats Podcast on Instagram. You can email me. It's offthemats2020 at Gmail. Question mark. It might be. I don't know, but reach out. Let me know what's going on because I can't get better if you don't tell me where I'm fucking up. So please, that doesn't mean just start messaging me like petty shit, like on episode 122. I heard some rattling in the background. It's like, bitch, get the fuck out my face. But we accept criticism. I want to give a big shout out to my crew there at Nerd Rage Radio, though. Bobby, Chris, Joe, Ricky Ticky, Maryland, Phil, Raul, all you guys. I can't remember all your names because there's a lot of you. And I probably said a different name each week except for the original 3. I love you guys. If it weren't for Nerd Rage Radio, I wouldn't be doing podcasts. So thank you to those guys. And if y'all don't like my podcast, then blame them. So, that's how that works too. I also want to give a shout out to my other podcast. So, you like horror, scary movies, basically. Y'all like horror movies. It's my other podcast. We talk about scary movies and stuff. We've been doing cursed films this year as our theme, once per month, and just new release movies, stuff like that. We talk about scary movies. So if you're into that kind of stuff, go check it out. If not, you don't got to. I do a beer review show too. Go check that out, Clumpton Beer Club. So, I do a bunch of stuff. I got a bunch of podcasts. I got a bunch of different personalities and medications. So, any given day, I'm on one of those shows and on a different pill. So, enjoy it. But all the same, thank you, everybody. And I want to give another shout out here to my wonderful guest here, Savvy Sav.
Savvy Sav, thank you so much for having me on again. And like I said, we'll check in a couple months and see where things are at all over again. But this was a great debrief. I'm glad that I could share some knowledge and open up. And yeah, we'll just keep doing the stuff.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing with us. And thank you, listeners, for listening. We love you guys. Remember, you guys keep listening. We're going to keep making these shows. Thank you, everybody. And ciao.
They were with it. Now let me sing a song.